YNABers. My name is Jesse Meekum, and this is podcast number 15 for You Need a Budget, where we teach you 4 rules to help you stop living paycheck to paycheck, get out of debt forever, and save more money for your kids' college, for your retirement, for vacation, for car repairs, for a new car if car repairs are out of the question. And today I'm going to talk about a huge issue that we're all facing. Well, most of us, if we're U.S.-based, and that is tax season. I am a recovering CPA. I got my CPA in 2006, I think, and then in 2007, let it lapse, started YNAB full-time. That was the end of CPA-hood. So I don't legally know what I'm talking about, but I can still remember a bit from when I did, and since this is my least favorite season of the entire year, it's also going to become maybe a bit of a topic that I rant on for a little bit. Also, it'll be the focus of a course that I've launched in the past, and we're relaunching this year. You all are focused on the wrong thing. The impetus of this podcast and a post I wrote 2 years ago that is still very, very relevant happened when I was on the treadmill. And there was a commercial for Intuit's TurboTax. Saw one last night watching, I don't remember what it was. Anyway, how it guides you through your taxes, and then they showed you this really fancy image with a guarantee seal. And on Intuit's website, you'll see it pretty much front and center every time when we get to tax season, where they talk about getting your biggest tax refund guaranteed. So the focus of Intuit's marketing for TurboTax is about the refund, but not singling out just Intuit, with whom we happily and joyfully compete, but taking a look at other providers like taxact.com. I used them years and years ago. On their front page a while ago, they had maximum refund pledge. Same thing. Tax refund, biggest one guaranteed. Intuit's fine print reads as follows when I last checked it. Quote, if you get a larger refund or smaller tax due from another tax preparation method, will refund the applicable TurboTax federal and or state purchase price paid. TurboTax Federal Free Edition customers are entitled to a payment of $15 and a refund of your state purchase price paid. Fair enough. TaxAct's fine print regarding their guarantee sheds a bit more light on the problem. They say, quote, if you get a larger refund or smaller tax due from another tax preparation method with the same data, we will refund the applicable product price you paid for your TaxAct Deluxe federal return. I won't even go into H&R Block's instant refund anticipation loans. Those are nasty, nasty little things, and that's a whole other story. Talk about praying. And I mean that with an E, not an A. The focus is on that carrot, the refund, dangling out in front of you. You own money, your own money, that you paid to the government in anticipation of your tax liability. This is your tax refund. But even trained accountants get this wrong and fall for the indoctrination. Back when I worked for a large accounting firm, so don't get the idea that I have tons of experience doing that. I lasted 10 long months. But I remember sitting around the table in this cafeteria of our client. It was tax season, and I was probably complaining about this very thing. One of my colleagues, a CPA, said something along the lines of, oh, I didn't pay any taxes this year. I got a refund. I about lost my lunch. If that same concept can happen to someone who passed the reg section of the CPA exam, which the CPA certainly did, and reg is the tax section, it certainly happens to your average Joe, the piano tuner. What was the problem with my colleague's statement? Even if they had just slipped up and really meant to say that they didn't pay any additional taxes for the year, it was still alarming. So just to be 100% clear on exactly what's happening, 1, you earn money, and then 2, you pay income taxes that are either withheld from your paycheck automatically. Now, this is so you're not as aware of the expense, removing you psychologically from it and encouraging just the problem we're discussing here. This is basically a huge lack of awareness, and it's there by design. So, you either have it pull out automatically where you don't feel a thing, or you're required to file quarterly estimates where you do feel it. And I'm in that boat and feel it all the time. Number 3, by April 15th of each year, you calculate what you actually owe and either pay more because your estimates weren't enough or your withholdings weren't enough, or you're paid a refund because you withheld too much or you estimated and paid too much. Unless you literally did not have a tax liability that year, you paid taxes. You may not have a tax liability if you're dead, or you earned only a small amount of income, or you have tons and tons and tons of kids. Now, I'm grossly simplifying with those 3 points above and semi-kidding. So know this. You very likely pay taxes every single year. Everyone listening to me most likely has a tax liability. And I'm not even talking about the FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare taxes that you can't avoid or minimize much at all if you're a wage worker. Even if you did fall into 2 or 3 above, where you only earn a small income or you have lots of kids, you still paid almost 8% of your wage in FICA. And your employer paid another almost 8. Well, it's actually lower now because we have the payroll tax. I can't remember what it is exactly now. It's lower than that. I think it's about 6%. So you pay 6, your employer pays 6 to FICA as well. So your employer is also paying a tax to have you work for them that you would be paying if you were an independent contractor or something like that. So if your employer didn't pay that tax, they would either take that to their bottom line or they would pay you a little more. So in a sense, you are paying that tax as well. You pay taxes every year of your life. And when you die, you pay again. Don't let me ever hear any of you say, I didn't pay taxes this year. I got a refund. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Now, this is not about tax policy. This is about your life's single biggest expense. I'm not talking about which way you lean politically or about this tax policy. It's about what will likely be or already has become and will only continue to be your single largest expense of your entire life. Okay? I'm guilty as charged. When I was working on writing savings tips, I'd write about saving time and money with dinner groups or 29 ways to save a fortune on your energy bill. If I were doing those tips really according to bottom line affecting expenditures, I'd probably be writing about tax savings 2 out of every 5 times for almost everyone. Now, back to the refund focus. Which way are you facing this tax season? At the beginning, I established that we are trained to be refund focused with tax compliance software. We're trained to drop in data, what we've done, and have the computer spit out what we owe or are owed. We're complying. We're facing backward. It's post-mortem. It's exactly what you don't want to do with your budget. A budget facing backwards isn't even a budget. Over 3 years ago, I wrote about preferring head-on to rear-end collisions. Of course, the metaphor breaks down quickly in real life, but you get my point. When it comes to making spending decisions, you want to be proactively looking forward and acting, not looking backward and reacting. Taxes are the exact same way. Remember Tax Act's guarantee? They mentioned that you have to use the same data that you punch in, and then that will be their comparison point. They're basically saying that their software will return the same result as another software because both softwares do the excellent job of looking back, crunching the numbers, considering the rules, and spitting out the liability. So hang on to that thought. I'll get back to that. Now, we can lament and moan, I do my fair share of it, about how economically costly tax compliance is, how it's a huge drain as a whole on the economy with no value add. How a client I worked on when I was back in public accounting, employed 35 people full-time to make sure their M1, that's a C corporation's return, has maybe 12 boxes to fill out, making sure that M1 was correct. So we aren't going to lament and we aren't going to moan. Things are not that simple. Life is complex. And if you guys remember the show Lost back a few years ago, remember that black cloud that kind of haunted the island? It's always there. Nobody knows what it is or how it works, and it does kill you. And at the end of Lost, I guess you kind of found out what it was. But at the end of this tax season, we still won't know how the tax code works. So I just want you guys to get comfortable with the idea that the tax code will always, always, always be complex. Even for those situations where the tax scenario really is simple, we have divergent voices. The New York Times wrote an interesting article a while ago. It was entitled, "Why Can't the IRS Help Fill in the Blanks?" And it cast some of the large tax preparation software backers in a negative light. The gist of it was California uses Ready Return, where they send eligible Californians a pre-filled return. Now, think about awareness there, though. The data can then be validated by the person, but it, quote, gets the ball rolling. It costs the state, I think, 34 cents to process a Ready Return, while a paper return filed in the traditional way costs $2.59. This is not including the taxpayer's savings in both time and possibly money, which could be huge. The tax preparation software lobby pushes against this for the obvious reasons. You guys can read into its response on my article that I wrote exactly on this topic. I'm going to repost it on the blog. You'll probably see it tomorrow. Whichever side of that debate you are on, simplicity, where I think it's starting to kill awareness or not, it's clear that there are interests hard at work on both sides furthering their own agenda. And what I want you to take away is that you need to have your own agenda. So regardless of what everyone else is doing on both sides, protecting their own interests, and if I had interests, I would protect them as well. Okay? Well, I actually am in this very moment. So you have your own agenda, and you work with that, and you just get comfortable with it. Your single largest expense is taxes, and your agenda regarding taxes is simple. Minimize it. Minimize your tax liability. Educate yourself. My real awakening, and hang on to this because this gets insane. My real awakening to this situation happened a few years ago. It was during preparation of our 2008 personal return. But before I get into that, let me tell you about my brother-in-law, Casey. I just referred two people to Casey yesterday. I don't like referring people to my brother-in-law because it kills the referral. It's like, oh yeah, my brother-in-law. He also, does great beef jerky, and he'll sell your home, and he can change your oil. It just doesn't work. But this is an exception. Brother-in-law has real skills. He's been doing my returns for years now. Casey is a tax preparation guru, and guru is the right word here. He might be partially insane as well. He loves the tax stuff, absolutely loves it. I mean, he hates the tax code, but he loves minimizing people's taxes. I have seen him become giddy, literally, over some strategy. It is a sight. He's also a complete straight arrow. He deals in blacks and whites. Prior to using Casey, I used another CPA to prepare my taxes, and heaven only knows how much money I overpaid. He was lousy. I should have fired him immediately. There were plenty of signs that told me as much. I just ignored them. How lousy this prior CPA was, and my own skills were, using software before that, this was all apparent once Casey got a hold of my tax documents for that 2008 return. It was the kind of thing where, you guys are not going to believe this, but taking an expense in one place instead of another, not incurring any expenses, like I'd already spent the money. He was literally saying, move that expense from here to here. It saved me over $10,000. And then it brought me out of this weird area of the tax code where suddenly I was saving more and more money. All in, it ended up being about $23,000. When I wrote the article, I kept it at $10,000 and change. But Casey came back later and said, that was way off. It was about 20-some thousand, I think $23,000 was what he saved me. This was all paper moves, okay? So literally, I am taking it to one person and I'm paying X. I'm taking it to Casey and I'm paying X minus $23,000. That was real. So we took that money that we saved and we used it to help us pay down the mortgage. Now, that money, and this is where it gets scary for me, that money would have been gone forever. There's literally nothing that you're given in return for that extra you pay on your taxes. Nothing. You don't get any more government services. You don't get any more of a warm feeling. You thought you paid exactly what you owed. You had no idea you were overpaying by so much. You are literally flushing money down the toilet. And I want you all to stop flushing your money down the tax toilet. I mean, more than you should pay. Flush some, please. Pay your taxes. Nothing, not a penny more than you owe. Now, Casey's in the know about this stuff, and he soaks it up. He prepares return after return and sees all these different situations. He dives into the tax code, discusses strategies, knows the forms inside and out, and he's been a phenomenal resource for me personally and for many of my friends and acquaintances that I've referred to him. I don't think he'd want me to disclose what it costs me to have him prepare our 2008 taxes, and I know his price has gone up since then at my pleading. I told him he was charging too little. But I feel like it's a bargain. I feel like it was a bargain every time. And he does not give me the family discount. If there is one, I refused it. It's an absolute no-brainer bargain. But I'm not done yet, because here's where the real value comes. Casey can now sit down with me and help me look forward and begin planning. For the 2008 return, he hadn't seen anything going on prior to having my documents all just dumped in hand. And he was forced to comply. He was forced to only be able to look back, and he still did phenomenal. But the real value comes in being able to plan and structure things in such a way that your tax bill is minimized. Having that ability is, as Michael Scott from The Office would say, incalculable. I led into this talking about tax preparation software. I think on net, it's a positive thing. But don't be deceived. No consumer-facing software is forward-looking. No tax prep software, that's kind of a tongue twister, tax prep software would have told me that I just needed to take my health expenses here instead of there. It would have just accepted my answer, what I put into the box, and moved on. Did you hear that flushing sound? I should go Google for one and add it right now. The savings we found had to do with how we were handling health insurance premiums in relation to adjusted gross income, called AGI. And we were on the threshold of causing phase-outs for Roth contributions, child tax credits, and I believe some itemized deductions. So it sounds like some foreign language to you, doesn't it? Embrace it. Learn this foreign language. It will save you tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. So here's what I've done, or what I did a few years ago, and we're rolling with it this year again. After quite a bit of prodding, cajoling, and begging, I convinced Casey to help me put together something that would help the Joe piano tuner I mentioned above get a handle on their tax situation and be able to start looking forward. What we cooked up a few years ago was awesome. We called it Tax Insight, taxinsight.net, and we're reopening it again for the third year this year. So, if you're interested in taking part in a free 7-day course, a little video course, you can work through all 7 during a lunch period, but it's something I put together a few years ago. It is still extremely relevant and extremely important, and dare I say it, mildly fun, where you can pick up on the overarching principles in the tax code and start to be wise to what you could do to minimize this single largest expense of your life. So, taxinsight.net. It's a YNAB property online, something that we worked on, and don't do too much with it throughout the year, but Casey's updated things, and we're going to roll the course out again. Everyone that's participated in the past has loved it. If you've already participated before and you want to again, you are more than welcome to sign up, but that should be available tomorrow, maybe today. We'll see how it goes, but tomorrow by the latest at taxinsight.net/course. So I encourage you guys to check it out. It's free. It's totally free. And it's awesome. It was a lot of fun to put together. I want you guys to be a little riled up about your taxes, be a little aware of what's going on. Don't just do post-mortem tax compliance. I want you to do tax strategy, forward-looking, awesome stuff. If you have a pretty interesting situation tax-wise and you want to talk with Casey, he works with clients all over, and this is my shameless plug for him, which is, I'll give you his email. Just email me at podcast@youneedabudget.com and ask me for his details. And he doesn't take on every client. I mean, some people wouldn't benefit if you're a straight wage worker and you don't have any wiggle room or anything to interpret. That wouldn't make sense. But if you've got some wiggle room, if you've got freelance income, stuff like that, I bet he could help you. I think that's basically it for today. Felt like a little bit of a rant. That was based on something that I wrote, years ago. Well, 2 years ago. And again, like I said before, it's very, very relevant. So just remember, you need to have your own tax policy. So educate yourself and pay as little as possible. Use those savings to reach your financial goals. Now, I kept politics completely out of this, so I'd encourage you to do the same. Tax policy, tax schmolicy. Your policy is minimize your situation. And that's all you can do. And vote however you like. At the end of the day, follow YNAB's 4 rules and you will win financially and minimize the heck out of your taxes. You have not budgeted like this.